Why wasn't I a fire mage? With the strength of a lion, the cunning of a goat, and the venom of a serpent, the Chimera was one of the deadliest monsters known throughout ancient Greece. Despite being a Greek monster, it terrorized the people around Lycia, which is now part of modern-day Turkey. Its appearance was considered an ill omen, and was often associated with natural disasters, primarily that of volcanic eruptions. Traditionally, the monster's appearance takes on that of a lion, with a goat's head protruding from in between its shoulder blades, and a venomous serpent replacing the entire tail. If the physical description of this monster didn't strike fear into those who heard it, the ability to breathe fire from its goat's head, and its snake's tail being able to inject lethal venom would have most likely sealed the deal. Adding that each head can attack independently from one another means you have a three-way threat rolled into one formidable monster. The original Chimera was the only one of its kind, and the common opinion was that it was female, despite the lion's head having a mane and the goat's head having a beard. Artistic representation of the Chimera shows the monster having teats, and the ears of the lion's head being visible through the mane, which was a common way to depict a female lion. While still being recognizable from the ancient Greek description of the Chimera, the modern take on this monster does have some differences. The most common change is evident around the snake's end of the beast, which was instead changed to become a dragon. This is due to the old description of the Chimera describing its tail resembling a serpent, which in those days was another word for dragon. Nowadays, the word serpent is often used to describe a snake, which is why the monster can be depicted with a snake or a dragon for a tail and still be true to the source material. This would also explain why the monster was able to breathe fire, although not as why the goat's head would be the one to do so. Sticking to the topic of dragon influence, wings were another addition that appeared in more modern depictions of the monster, despite not being mentioned in the original telling. Other changes to the beast revolves around the placement of the various animal parts. The more commonly used reconstruction would mimic that of Cerberus, having all three heads placed around the shoulders, and with great wings sprouting from its back. Like most single-entity monsters, the Chimera was eventually turned into a species of monster, creating prides and causing more widespread havoc in the worlds they inhabit. This change would of course lead to mating pairs of chimeras, in which turn would create differing appearances thanks to sexual dimorphism. If this were the case, the lion part will show the normal differences between the two sexes, excluding the manes which the females would still possess, although the males would have a larger and thicker one compared to them. Likewise, the goat part would also show differences observed in normal goats, but again, the beard and the horns would be larger in males than females. Of course, this depends all on the artist, and the Chimera might be shown as monomorphic and show no differences between the sexes. The parents that spawned the Chimera were fearsome monsters in their own right. Its father was Typhon, and it was one of, if not the deadliest monster in all of Greece. He had 100 heads resting upon his shoulders, wings sprouting from his back, and his lower half was comprised of 2 snake tails. The mother of the Chimera, just like Typhon, was equally terrifying and feared, who, while less fearsome in appearance than her lover, made up for it in her regular feasting upon humans and her foul temper. Her form consisted of the upper half of a beautiful maiden and the lower half of a snake. The various offspring from their union will prove to be some of the deadliest monsters known to the ancient Greeks. The most notable of their children would be the Lernaean Hydra, Cerberus, and of course, the Chimera. The story of the Chimera begins with the hero Bellerophon, son of Poseidon, god of the sea, and a mortal woman. After he murdered his brother later in life, Bellerophon was exiled by the ruling king of the land. He travelled to Tiryns to seek King Proteus to absolve him of his crimes by virtue of his kingship. Whilst our hero stayed under the king's care, The queen took a fancy to Bellerophon and tried to make her advances on him. Bellerophon rejected the queen's advances, causing her great embarrassment, which soon turned into great anger. She told her husband that Bellerophon violated her, causing the king to be justly outraged. Despite being the king of Tyrants, King Proteus was unable to do the ancient Greek fix-everything method of killing Bellerophon and calling it a day. The reasoning for this was because the ancient Greek custom of xenia, otherwise known as guest friendship. The basics of this custom was that everyone was expected to accommodate a traveller who was far from home and to show him courtesy and generosity. In turn, the guest was expected to not make a burden of themselves and to leave once it was possible to do so. Before departing, each party would exchange guest gifts of worthy value as thanks. This was not only a social custom but also a religious one, as it is said that the gods would disguise themselves as travellers and test the residents on how they treat their guests. If they were kind, they would be greatly rewarded, and if they were cruel, punishment would quickly follow. Stuck in the dilemma of wanting to kill Bellerophon, but fearing repercussion from the gods, King Proteus instead sent our hero away on a task to deliver a letter to his father-in-law in Lycia. Once Bellerophon arrived in Lycia, he sought out King Iobates to deliver the message he was entrusted with. Little to Bellerophon's knowledge, the letter he was sent to deliver was actually a request to kill him, reading, "Pray remove the bearer from this world. He attempted to violate my wife, your daughter." King Iobates was equally furious that his daughter was defiled by the man that stood before him, but he too was subject to follow the rules of xenia. His solution was to send out the young hero to complete a task that no man has yet to live through, a suicide mission, if you would. The Chimera was at large across the countryside, raiding villages and attacking travellers, leaving little more than charred corpses and bloody trails wherever it wandered. King Iobates had previously sent out warriors to slay the beast, even going as far as dispatching a small army to complete the task. Despite the effort, none of these warriors would ever return. Before Bellerophon would fight the Chimera, he was instructed by a seer to sleep at a nearby temple of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. As he slept, Athena herself gave the sleeping hero a golden bridle, which would help him tame Pegasus, the wild-winged horse. Awakening to find his new gift upon his lap, Bellerophon spotted Pegasus drinking from a nearby well. Being the son of Poseidon, who was also the god of horses, Bellerophon was easily able to tame the mythical horse, and set out towards the last known location of the Chimera. As a side note, Pegasus was also the child of Poseidon, its mother being the Gorgon Medusa. The winged horse was born from the blood of the slain Gorgon after her decapitation from the hero Perseus. So Bellerophon and Pegasus are actually stepbrothers, I guess? I'm sure there's a stepbrother riding joke somewhere in here. Flying high from where the Chimera could not leap nor its fire reach, Bellerophon peppered the beast with arrows from the safety of the skies. However, the beast's hide was too tough, and any arrow that struck it bounced off as if it was tipped with cotton. Bellerophon retreated after seeing the futility of his tactic, returning with a lance tipped with a block of lead. His new tactic would prove to be more dangerous and requiring greater skill to achieve without meeting his own end. Diving low on the winged steed, Bellerophon thrusted the spear towards the Chimera, not in hope of piercing its hide, but rather aiming for the goat's mouth, the source of the fire breathing. His aim was true, and the beast's fiery breath melted the block of lead inside its mouth, causing the monster to suffocate. With the fire-breathing monster slain, Bellerophon returned to King Iobates, who, after a few more tasks and a failed assassination attempt, realized that Bellerophon must have the gods watching over him, and relented in any more attempts to kill him. Instead, King Iobates offered Bellerophon one of his daughters' hand in marriage, as well as half of his own kingdom. Feeling that his achievements deserved a greater reward than any mere mortal king could provide, Bellerophon once again called upon Pegasus, and the pair flew towards Mount Olympus, home of the gods. Zeus, god of thunder, was not too pleased with this blatant act of hubris, so he sent out a gladfly to sting Pegasus, causing the winged horse to buck and send Bellerophon falling back to Earth. Pegasus made its way up to Mount Olympus and became a packhorse for Zeus to transport his thunderbolts, while the once great hero Bellerophon, now blind thanks to his fall being broken by a thorn bush, lived out the rest of his life in misery. Most monsters often are created by people not understanding what they are seeing. Mermaids were confused with manatees by sailors. Centaurs were warriors riding on horseback. The conception of the Chimera, on the other hand, is believed to have originated from the local fauna and geothermically active area of Mount Chimera in Lycia. It was said that the lions would dwell near the peak of the mountain, the goats would settle near its center, while the snakes would skulk around its base. Adding all these animals together, along with the vents of flammable gases that burn across the mountain, and you have all the traits of the Chimera. The legacy of the Chimera is actually one that still affects us today. Chimera is a word that we still use as a genetic or medical term to refer to something that has the genes of more than one individual. Examples of chimerism not only offer animal examples, but plants and even viruses. Humans are not excluded from chimerism, often being the result of bone marrow transfusions or organ transplants, though natural chimerism is possible. When a fraternal twin is absorbed by the other, the surviving twin carries two sets of different DNA, despite being the one organism. There are even experiments where mixing of human and animal DNA produces viable offspring, the latest experiment being a human-pig hybrid of 0.001% human DNA. This experiment was conducted in 2017, and the specimen was destroyed after 4 weeks of viable life. Coming back to the monster, the Chimera is still a popular monster used in modern media. While it may not retain its traditional combination of animals, or even be called a chimera, the idea of the creature is used as a base to create many different and equally terrifying monsters in their own right. The monster shows up in video games, kids shows, card games, and movies, and will most likely continue to do so because of the freedom the monster offers. Its form, structure, and combinations can be shaped to whatever the story needs it to be, offering near limitless possibilities. And with that, we conclude our video for today. I would like to know what your thoughts are about the Chimera, be it the original myth, the video game anime, or somewhere else the monster is mentioned. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. If you want to see any more of my videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you won't miss out on any new videos I release. If you want to keep up to date with all my projects, I post everything I release on Twitter, so consider following me there if you don't want to miss out on anything. This Mythic Monster episode was recommended by Dragonfire810, and I thank them for their comment. And if you want a monster you like in the next episode of Mythic Monsters, let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I thank you all for watching. Until next time. You're a good girl.